probably one of the worst kept secrets is how grossly underfunded our schools are. A lot of large systems across the state have pursued a lawsuit based on the state's failure to fund the BEP. And clearly the state has concerns that's going to succeed because they're moving HJR 493 to amend the Constitution to make it so they don't have to fund our schools. Last year, the council, 28 or 29 council members, including Mayor Berry, signed a letter to the school board asking for y'all to maybe explore joining that lawsuit or coming up with their own. What's the status of that?
So we've received, and I'll let Mr. Pinkston, who's probably about to come out of his seat right now, chime in on this as well. But I think it was before last board meeting, we got an additional legal update from Metro Legal about the status of several of the other lawsuits that the other large school districts had filed, and even a move that had been made by the smaller, collectively, at least an inquiry that had been made by a representative of the smaller school districts. So right now, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, we haven't had our governance meeting to discuss it formally, to make a recommendation here on the board floor. But I think general feel, I think, for the board is to just determine under which of the four options to pursue the lawsuit that we go for. So I think it's equity, and Mr. Pinkston, it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Gentry. I'll just do a little context setting here. This is not commonly known, but I think all of us who care about education funding in the city need to be sort of repeating this over and over and over again. We are ranked 54th out of 67 urban school systems in America when it comes to per pupil funding. Just as recently as today, the Education Law Center, which is a national group that studies school funding issues, released a report saying that Tennessee is in the bottom 10 of states when it comes to per pupil funding. We in Nashville fund 65% of public education locally, and that is the second, Mr. Hanson, correct me if I'm wrong, the second or third lowest or highest share of local funding in the state. Under any rational view, this school system is underfunded by the state of Tennessee. The legislature's own BEP, Basic Education Program Review Committee, has assessed determined that the state is underfunding public education in Tennessee by at least $500 million. That's a conservative estimate. The real number is probably closer to $1 billion, but let's just assume that we use the $500 million mark. That would put Nashville's additional share of BEP funding an increase, so somewhere around $20 to $30 million. And if the state was fulfilling the commitments and the promises that it had made, we could make that money go a long way toward English learners and toward reading literacy and everything else. I personally, just speaking on behalf of myself, was very grateful for the council to weigh in last year as the appropriating authority, and I think you all have as much, if not more, as the appropriating authority, more to say about this than the board. And I think it's time for us to join our other urban school systems in the state and be part of the conversation. As we've talked about frequently, we can either be at the table or we could end up on the menu if we're not careful. And I think it's time, personally, legal continues to analyze the situation. I think the last thing is, when you've got a recalcitrant executive branch, as someone who's worked in state government, we've seen that over the years. When you've got a recalcitrant legislative branch, sometimes the only place to go is the third branch of government. And I think it's time to go there, and would appreciate the council's support as we continue to talk through these issues.